You know, there is something rather curious about this whole business of what we call spiritual awakening. People come to me and they ask, Alan, what is it that these awakened people see? What do they know that I don't know? And I have to laugh, because the question itself reveals the very predicament we find ourselves in. The spiritually awake person doesn't see something that isn't there. They don't have access to some hidden realm, some secret chamber of wisdom locked away from ordinary mortals. No, what they see is what sits right in front of everyone's nose. Only they see it without the filtering, without the commentary, without the constant chattering interference of what we call the ego. Let me put it to you this way. Imagine you are looking at a tree. Now, most of us don't really look at the tree at all. We look at the word tree. We look at our concept of treeness. We think, yes, that is a tree. I know what trees are. Maple, oak, useful for lumber, nice for shade, produces oxygen. And we have completely missed the tree itself. We have substituted the menu for the meal, the map for the territory. The awake person looks at that same tree and sees it directly, without the verbal interference. They see the actual suchness of it, the isness of it, the extraordinary, intricate dance of light and shadow and form that is happening right there. And suddenly, that tree becomes the most marvelous thing in the universe. Why do we do this? Why do we replace direct seeing with concepts? It is not that they are seeing something extra. They are seeing what is actually there when you remove what is extra, what has been added by the conceptual mind. Most people are walking around in a kind of trance. They are hypnotized by words, by concepts, by their own thoughts. They think that their thoughts about reality are reality itself. It is as if someone spent their entire life looking at paintings of the ocean and thought they knew what the ocean was. Then one day they go to the shore and they wade in, and the waves crash over them and they say, "Good heavens, this is nothing like the paintings." That is what awakening is like. It is the difference between the painting and the actual experience. And here is the curious thing. Everyone has had moments of this. Everyone has tasted this direct seeing. Perhaps you have had it in moments of great danger, or great beauty, or great love. Suddenly the thinking stops, and there is just this extraordinary presence of reality. Children have this naturally. Watch a child discovering a puddle, or a butterfly, or their own hands. They are completely absorbed, completely present. They have not yet learned to substitute concepts for experience. But then we educate them. We civilize them. We teach them to live in their heads, to live in the past and the future, to live anywhere except here and now. And gradually, that direct seeing fades away, and they join the rest of us in this collective trance. How does one break free from this trance? The spiritually awake person has somehow broken this spell, perhaps through meditation, perhaps through some crisis or shock, perhaps through deep philosophical inquiry. It does not really matter how. What matters is they have realized that the way they have been taught to experience reality is only one way, and not necessarily the most accurate way. They have discovered that their thoughts about things are not the things themselves. And here is something that really baffles people. The awake person sees that there is no separate self in the way we usually think of it. Now, I am not saying they do not exist, or that you do not exist. What I am saying is that this feeling we have of being a separate ego locked inside a bag of skin, totally separate from the rest of the universe, that feeling is a fiction. It is a very convincing fiction, mind you, but a fiction nonetheless. You see, we have been taught to identify ourselves with this little voice in our head, this internal narrator that is constantly commenting on everything. I like this, I don't like that. I am worried about this. I am hoping for that. And we think that little voice is us. But the awake person has realized that they are not that voice. The voice is something that happens within their awareness, but it is not what they fundamentally are. Think about it this way. You can be aware of your thoughts. You can watch them come and go. So if you can observe your thoughts, you cannot be your thoughts, can you? That which observes is not the observed. If this is resonating with you, if something in these words is stirring something you have always known but could not name, share this with someone who is seeking, someone who is ready to wake up from the collective dream. And subscribe so we can continue this exploration together. The awake person has discovered that they are the awareness in which everything arises. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, the whole world. They are not a thing inside the universe. They are the consciousness in which the universe appears. Now, this is not some sort of grandiose delusion. It is not about thinking you are divine in some egotistical sense. It is quite the opposite. It is the dissolution of the ego, the realization that what you really are is much more fundamental than this little character you have been playing, this role with your name and your history and your ambitions. The awake person sees through what I call the skin-encapsulated ego. They realize that the boundary between inside and outside, between self and other, is conventional, not absolute. When you breathe in, the air becomes you. When you breathe out, you become the air. When you eat an apple, the apple becomes you. Where do you end and the world begin? The line is arbitrary. We draw it for convenience, but nature knows no such line. The ancient masters understood this deeply. When Lao Tzu spoke of the Tao, the way of all things, he was pointing to this seamless unity. When the Buddha spoke of anatta, no self, he was revealing this same truth. When the Upanishads declared Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that, they were saying you are not separate from the cosmic principle itself. And when you really see this, when you really get it in your bones, not just as an intellectual idea, but as a direct perception, everything changes. You realize that you are not a stranger in the universe. You are not some cosmic accident, some little flash of consciousness that somehow got lost in a mechanical, meaningless cosmos. No, you are an expression of the whole thing, just as a wave is an expression of the ocean. This brings us to something else that spiritually awake people see, which is the unity of all things. Not unity in some vague, mystical sense, but the actual literal fact that everything is interconnected, that everything arises together. You cannot have up without down. You cannot have inside without outside. You cannot have self without other. You cannot have life without death. These things do not exist separately and then come into relationship. They are aspects of a single unified process. Most people see the world as a collection of separate things that occasionally interact. They see themselves as one thing and everything else as other things. But the awake person sees that this is like saying the crest of a wave is separate from the trough. They are different aspects of one movement, one wave. In the same way, all the apparently separate things in the universe are different aspects of one happening, one cosmic event. Why does this matter? How does this change the way we live? When you see that you are not separate from the world, you cannot help but treat it differently. Harming others becomes like cutting off your own hand. It is obviously against your interest because they are not really other in the way you thought. This is not morality imposed from outside. It is simply intelligent self-interest, once you understand what yourself actually is. Take a moment right now. Look around you. Really look. Can you see where you end and the world begins? If this exploration is opening something in you, share it with another seeker on the path. And subscribe to continue this journey of awakening together. Another thing the awake person sees is the extraordinary intelligence of nature, the intelligence of the universe itself. You see, we have been taught to think that consciousness is something unusual, something that only happens in human minds and perhaps in animal minds. Everything else is supposed to be dead, mechanical, unconscious. But this is a very strange idea if you think about it. How did conscious beings emerge from an unconscious universe? How did intelligence arise from unintelligence? It is like saying you can get blood from a stone, or apples from a brick wall. The awake person realizes that consciousness must be fundamental to the universe, not something that appeared as an afterthought. The universe must be intelligent in its very nature, or intelligence could never have appeared within it. The ancient philosophers knew this. Heraclitus spoke of the Logos, the divine reason that orders all things. Plato spoke of the world's soul, the intelligence that pervades everything. The Stoics understood that the cosmos itself is a living, rational being. Look at your own body. You do not consciously beat your heart, or digest your food, or fight off illness, or grow your hair. All of that happens spontaneously, intelligently, without any deliberate effort on your part. The same intelligence that grows grass from the soil and turns caterpillars into butterflies. That intelligence is what is beating your heart right now. You are not doing it. It is doing you. The awake person sees that they are not controlling their life in the way they thought. The ego does not actually do anything. Thoughts arise spontaneously. Actions happen. The sense of being a controller, a separate agent making decisions. That is just another thought arising in the stream of consciousness. In reality, you are being lived by the universe, just as a wave is being waved by the ocean. When does this realization come? How do we recognize it? Now, this might sound terrifying at first. People think, if I am not in control, then what? Am I just a puppet? Do I have no will of my own? But this is still thinking in terms of separation, of me versus the universe. What the awake person realizes is that the controller and the controlled are one. The universe is not forcing you to do anything. You are what the universe is doing at this particular point in space and time. When you see this, there is a tremendous relief, a tremendous letting go. All that anxiety about whether you are doing the right thing, making the right choices, living your life correctly, it falls away. You realize you cannot make a mistake because you are not separate from the process. You cannot do anything other than what you do because you are not separate from the power that is doing it. This does not make you passive or irresponsible. It makes you spontaneous, natural, free. The Tao Te Ching speaks of Wu Wei, action through non-action. This is what it means. When you stop trying to force life to go a certain way, when you stop resisting what is, you discover that you are being moved by the same intelligence that moves the stars and the seasons. Are you beginning to see it? This shift from doing to being? If these words are landing somewhere deep within you, share this wisdom with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so we can continue awakening together. The spiritually awake person also sees through the illusion of time in a very profound way. We think of time as this river flowing from past to future, and we think we are being carried along in it. But actually, there is only now. The past is a present memory. The future is a present anticipation. Both exist only as thoughts occurring now. Why do we live anywhere but here? The awake person lives fully in the present moment because they see that is the only place life ever actually happens. Most people are never where they are. They are always living in their heads, in memories of the past or fantasies about the future. They are thinking about what they should be doing, what they should have done, what might happen tomorrow. And meanwhile, life is happening now, and they are completely missing it. They are missing the miracle of this moment. This breath, this sight, this sound. The ancient masters were obsessed with this. The Zen masters would strike their students to shock them into the present. Eckhart Meister spoke of the eternal now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." They all understood that to live in time is to miss life itself. The awake person has somehow managed to come back to the here and now. They have realized that this moment is all there is, and it is completely sufficient. In fact, it is perfect exactly as it is. This does not mean they do not plan for the future or learn from the past, but they do not confuse those mental activities with reality. Reality is always now, and in this present moment, when you really settle into it, something extraordinary happens. The mind becomes quiet. The constant stream of commentary stops, or at least fades into the background. And there is just this awareness, this open, spacious consciousness in which everything is appearing. And you realize that this awareness, this consciousness, is what you really are. It has been here all along, but you have been so busy thinking about things that you never noticed it. This awareness is very simple, very ordinary, and yet it is the most profound thing in the universe. It is the light in which everything appears. Without it, there would be no world, no experience, no anything. And it is what you are, not as an object or a thing, but as pure subjectivity, pure presence, pure being. The spiritually awake person rests in this awareness. They identify not with the passing show of thoughts and feelings and sensations, but with the awareness in which all of that appears. And from this perspective, everything looks different. Problems do not disappear, but they lose their power to disturb. Pain is still felt, but there is no suffering added to it by resistance and complaint. Joy is experienced more fully because there is no fear of losing it. Life becomes play, a cosmic dance, a game. Not in the sense of not taking it seriously, but in the sense of not taking yourself too seriously. You realize you are playing a role, a character, but you are not limited to that role. You can be in the world fully, engaging completely, and yet not be of it, not be trapped by it. This is the invitation. This is the door that stands open before you. If you are ready to step through, share this with others who are ready. Subscribe to continue this exploration, and most importantly, look. Look right now at what is actually here. This is what the spiritually awake person sees. They see reality directly, without the filter of concepts. They see the unity of all things. They see that consciousness is fundamental. They see that there is no separate self. They see that all there is now. And they see that what they really are is the awareness in which all of this appears. And the beautiful, frustrating, wonderful thing is that I can tell you all of this, but it will not help you one bit unless you see it for yourself. These are just more words, more concepts, more items on the menu. The real feast is available right now, in this very moment, if you would only stop reading the menu and start eating. Look at what is actually here. Listen to what is actually sounding. Feel what is actually present. And in that direct contact with reality, you may discover what the spiritually awake already know, that you are that reality, looking at itself through these particular eyes. The danger is not in seeing what others do not see. The danger is in continuing to not see what has always been right here, waiting for your attention. The information provided through this and our services is intended for educational and informational purposes only, and not recommendations to buy or sell a specific security.